Oh, okay. What does archery have to do with photography? Actually, it has a lot. I used to be a five-spot champion, and I used to work in an outdoor store. I was really good at archery. I even made handmade bowstrings and gave archery lessons. One of the several things, like ARC, which is a premise that I thought up, absolute repeatable consistency, is in archery is that you actually have the same location points when you draw the bowstring back. And if you have absolute repeatable consistency, then you're able to fine-tune your shooting technique in archery. But the other really important thing, and I don't know if you've probably never seen like a hardcore indoor target archery competition. Almost nobody's seen one, but you'll notice that when they actually draw the bow back, they don't have their hand on the actual riser, i.e. the central portion of the compound bow. They actually have their palm all the way open. It's like, well, you'd think you'd want a tight grip. No, you actually have your palm all the way open. The reason for that is you have a bazillion muscles in your hand, right? The smaller the contact area you have, the fewer number of muscles are interacting with the bow. Every single hardcore professional archer has minimal contact. They have their hand open. They usually have a wrist strap in case once they actually fire the bow that it doesn't slide out of their hand. So they have a wrist strap, but that's something else. But they have their hand open. Another thing too is when they're drawing the bowstring back, they'll actually have most of them have a mechanical release as opposed to pulling back with their fingers. Professional archery doesn't use finger shooting. Anyway, the professional target shooting doesn't. They use mechanical releases, and they'll actually have all their fingers except a couple of them. The same thing applies to photography. Let's get off of archery. A lot of people ask me, they're saying like on the Nikon D850 or any other camera, it's more of an issue in a high megapixel camera. And certainly so at slower shutter speeds. Like, well, I can't even take a non-blurry image at... and we do have shutter slap, okay? So there are some things that are insurmountable you have to work with, but they're having issues with shake at, where you shouldn't be experiencing issues with shake at 60th of a second and even a 30th of a second. And what they're doing, and I see people do this all the time, they'll grab their camera, they'll wrap their hand around it, and then wrap their hand around the lens, and they have all these muscles fighting each other, and this is where you end up with shaky. If you really want to improve your low light strike rate, there's a reason I have this hand strap on. It's not to keep me from dropping the camera. What it does is it gives me the ability, because these little metal triangle rings, well, I only have one here, but these locus points attachment to the top and bottom of the camera, there's no muscles there. It's obviously inanimate matter, right? What it does is it gives me the ability to push off from the camera, and I'm actually holding the camera as little as possible. So without this hand strap, and that's really why a hand strap is actually quite important. A lot of them are not great without the vertical grip. Your hand strap has to attach down underneath here, and it's a bit of an issue. So that's the one big advantage of actually having a vertical grip. Some people don't like them because of the added weight, yada, yada, yada. There are quite a few advantages to having a vertical grip, including more power, but also to get your hand off the camera by using a hand strap. The ability to shoot in portrait and landscape mode very quickly and easily, too. But I'm actually able to pull my actual hand off of the camera. But I see people grab a hold of the lens. They have a lot of muscles fighting the camera, and they got both hands, and all the muscles in both of those hands fighting the camera. And this is the reason why many of you have the inability. If you could just change your shooting technique just a little bit. I made a video quite a long time ago about people actually pressing their shutter release button down. There's actually, you're able to get a second tip. Instead of pressing your shutter release down, it actually involves too many muscles. You're actually pulling the camera like this. Is you actually pull the shutter release button into your hand. So instead of depressing it, you're actually pulling it in like this. What you do is you end up with far less torque to the camera. That combined with as few contacts as possible. And I don't have a long lens on this camera right now. The way people actually will sit there and grab a hold of even a big lens. I don't care how big the lens is. It could be a 302 8mm or 400mm lens. You don't need your hand wrapped around. Well, I have to support the lens. That's not the point. I know you need to support the lens, but instead of doing this on that damn lens, why not do this? Now, obviously can't demonstrate it with a small lens, but what I'm actually doing is actually, if this entire camera and lens were just the lens only, I'm only using 2 fingertips and the thumbnail and my thumbnail to make a support for that lens. Or even if it's a heavier camera, I'll actually have my hand all the way out from the camera, and if I have to support it, I have all these contact points that are merely thumbnails, or fingernails, obviously so, contacting the camera. There's no muscles in your fingernails and your thumbnails, so instead of grabbing a hold of the camera, try to grab the camera as little as possible. And if you test this, you'll notice you'll have radically better shooting technique at really low shutter speeds. Not shooting technique, excuse me. Well, that is better shooting technique. You'll have radically better strike rate as far as the number of blurry images due to camera shake. You can't eliminate out the shutter slap unless you go mirrorless, right? But regardless of whether it's mirrorless or not, put as few contacts as possible on the camera. You need to change your shooting style. And I see every time I see someone with a big lens or a camera, like they got every square millimeter of surface wrapped on top of that lens and that camera, and that's just not the right way to shoot. You know, so I've been doing that for years, it works fine. Yeah, why don't you try that at a really slow shutter speed and then do what I told you and see the difference. Oh my god, what a difference. There we go. That's the irrefutable answer to that, and I cannot be denied. Thank you so much. If you like these videos, you can click the link below. Tell me to jump off a cliff. Whatever makes you happy. How you like the fireside chat crap? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. I need to pack. I need to get ready to go to Florida. Bye.